Welcome to the Inland Lakes Railway. My name is Thomas East. I'm an engineer here. And this beautiful locomotive that we're standing next to is our GP10. It's a number 8330. She was built back in the early 1950s and saw service on the Union Pacific as a GP9B, which means she didn't have a cab when she was built. In the 1970s, it was rebuilt at the Paducah shops, and they turned it into a Paducah GP10. They put a cab on it, did some other modifications, and put it on service on the Illinois Central Railroad, eventually the Illinois Central and Gulf Railroad, and eventually it was sold off in the 90s to a short line, the Nash County Railroad up in North Carolina. We bought it from the Nash County Railroad. They needed some bigger motive power, and this engine now is our power for the dinner train here on the railroad. We have lunch and dinner trains, and this also pulls our trains to Orlando. It's the bigger engine of the two we own. And it's a good little engine. Right now we're going to go ahead and start it and get it ready for the day's work. So I'll take you on for a ride. Here we go. Well, the first thing we do before we fire up the locomotive is check the compressor oil, which we're going to do right now. This is the oil for the air compressor. Gotta make sure we are good on our levels. Simply unscrew, check your gauge, and we are good. Full, 1 gallon. Wipe that off, and just screw it back in. Now, next process, starting it up. Well, now that we've checked the compressor oil, we're going to go ahead and turn on the knife switch here. It turns on the batteries so we can get going in our starting process. Big switch right here. Just got to kick it on there and close this back up. All that on. And now we'll go outside and start it up. Well, this is where we start the engine. Various engines are different. Some of the engines you can start them right inside the cab. I wish this was one of them, but it's not. So what we do for about 30 seconds to a minute, I generally do it for about 45 seconds, is we prime it up. So we'll sit here and prime up for about 30 more seconds, and then we'll start up the engine. This is also where our water gauge is located, and once the engine has run for a few minutes, we'll check our water levels and make sure that everything is set to go. This is where we do the Jeopardy theme. Come on. Now we're going to start. We've got the engine running. We're going to give it about 10 or 15 minutes before we check the water level and the oil in the engine. You got to give it time to idle up and get moving. But until then, we're going to turn on all of our switches in here and then make our ground inspection of the locomotive. After we do that, we'll go ahead and come back and do all of our other tests. Got our light switch here. Let's turn on the lights for the cab and stuff. This is cab heat. You know, Florida, we really don't use that. Headlight here. Shutter controls, opens the shutters in the side to bring airflow into the engine. If it's really cold, we don't generally open that. Keeps the engine a little bit warmer. Just depends. The only other switches, that's actually it for now. This is the engine room lights, which we don't turn on until the nighttime. And these are the platform lights, which we also don't turn on until the nighttime. And these are our ditch lights, but we won't turn them on until we're ready to move. We don't want to blind everybody. Got our radio here on. We're slowly building air pressure. This will eventually top off at 140. It's going to take some time though. All of our other switches are up and running. Turn our rear headlight on dim since we are now operating. Now we'll go outside and inspect the train. know, you always want to double check everything. And as I do that, I fill out this inspection report here. And by the time I'm done inspecting the engine, I will sign this and state that I've seen everything of the engine and made sure everything's working all right. And then we'll be ready for the day's runs.